Aidan Hehir is an expert in the ethics of war and a professor of international relations at the University of Westminster here in the UK. He joins us now. Good to have you with us. So one of the things that Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister, was saying about the war in Iraq was that it was justified on humanitarian grounds because it removed Saddam Hussein from power. What do you make of that argument?
Well, I think he's profoundly wrong. Humanitarian intervention is justified under certain circumstances, but one of those circumstances would be if there has been a dramatic increase in mass atrocity crimes committed inside a state. And no such increase occurred in Iraq in 2001 or 2002. In addition, one of the other criteria that would invariably be cited as necessary to meet would be that the intervention is the last resort, that all peaceful means have been exhausted. And very obviously, that was not the case with respect to the invasion of Iraq. This was a war that was chosen by Bush and that Blair also aligned himself to. It was needless, it was a profound violation of international law and also grossly immoral.
Given that war, by its very nature, always results in civilian deaths and in very difficult circumstances, is war ever legitimate in cases of humanitarian suffering?
Yes, I think it is. I think in the last 25 years, if not longer, there's been a growing consensus among states and the international community more generally that there are circumstances when, as much as war is always an imperfect instrument, it is occasionally necessary to halt gross violations of human rights, genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, etc. However, the problem with respects to this is that states, by definition, will only take action if it's in their interest to do so. So whenever you have a humanitarian intervention, it's invariably a function of a coincidence between human suffering and the interests of individual states. And unfortunately, the record of humanitarian intervention is not particularly good. Iraq has obviously tarnished that reputation, arguably forever, but it shouldn't necessarily preclude us from thinking that there are circumstances when it could be justified to invade a state to protect the lives of people who are suffering gross violations of human rights. But as I said earlier, the threshold for intervention would have to be set very high.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head that international consensus is very difficult to get. For example, a UN Security Council vote, which isn't always possible. In terms of the Chilcot report goes, it didn't go as far as to say that the war was illegal, but do you think people should be held accountable?
Yes, I mean, the Chilcot report, unfortunately, the Iraq inquiry itself was hampered from the very beginning by virtue of the fact that the British government didn't allow the inquiry to look into the legality of the invasion. So unfortunately, what the Chilcot report largely does is confirm what we already knew. It provides, rich historical detail that's obviously going to be of great use to historians and academics. But what people want, I think, and in your previous report you could see that from Iraq, what people want, and I think what they deserve, is a sense that justice is going to be done. And unfortunately, so long as Blair and Bush and the various other different people in those two administrations continue to evade justice, people will feel, quite rightly, aggrieved.
Aidan, good to speak with you. Thank you for that. Aidan Hehir speaking to us from the University of Westminster there.